I know somebody's singing that. Come on, who's singing that? And his name? Ladies and gentlemen, time for another Between Sundays. I'm pretty sure somebody's singing that in the background. And all lot. And his name is above. All right, come on, say, oh, let's go. They go back to the top.
Yeah.
They go back to the top on this one. That's what happens when you get them church arrangements. It's like, we're going everybody to the top. So we're going back to the top. Back into titles once again. Behind me, none other than two of my favorite guys. You know, Jay and Darian. They're here in the Convos Lounge. We are tweaking and getting stuff together. And so please check us out on YouTube as well. So need you to go to it, subscribe on the YouTube channel. All right. So the link will be in the comment section. One of us, somebody's going to just take that, copy the link and drop it in the Facebook comment section, and just hit that link and go over. If you're already on YouTube, just go ahead and subscribe. If not, subscribe anyway. All right. Doesn't cost you nothing. It's not like we raising the offering or nothing. Just go ahead and subscribe. All right. To the table, it is Darian and Jay.
Well, good evening and welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody.
Again, we're Between Sundays. Tonight is episode 41. Our brother has been in a heavyweight bout with a respiratory virus. But early.
Say that, brother. Say that,
And it knocked me out Saturday. I dragged myself to church on Sunday. But glad you are here. Please, as you're coming in, if you don't mind, please share. Share to your page, tag somebody, share to a group. We love as many people as part of the conversation as possible. Once again, we're a platform where we offer perspectives of the modern church ministry operation and the many nuances therein from the lens of worship arts and multimedia personnel. So we have been in a series that we started this year called Titles. Before I do that, let me not forget that we just hit 1 year anniversary.
Happy
Between Sundays.
Yes,
So listen, we're going to do a little something different next week, and we ain't going to tell you about it. You're just going to find out next week when we go live.
It's going to be good.
We're just going to do a little something in commemoration, celebration of the 1 year anniversary. Now, again, we've been in a series this year, Titles. And the threefold
Sweet mouth.
That's all right.
Got him.
Nice.
But yeah, the threefold conversation that we've started with Titles has really surrounded the function of Titles, and I'm hoping that we finish up the function as next week we make our way to the importance of Titles, and then we finish with the mission of Titles as it relates to ministry. So before we jump back into our topic, as we generally do, we want to look at a comment from a previous episode. Midst of our dialogue last week, shout out to Eugene Burke, who was our in-studio guest last week, gave us some great nuggets. So the comment we want to look at this week that came up last week in our discussion, Mrs. Brister said, if everyone can't be an instructor, of every task or subject, then anyone can't just volunteer for every task or subject. Proper placement leads to proper preparation for excellence and effectiveness in the execution of a task. I want to read that again, particularly the first sentence. That's the big one. If everyone can't be an instructor of every task or subject, then anyone can't just volunteer for every task and subject. I'm going to lay my hat there as we kind of discuss this a little bit. And again, this was in our topic, and we talked a lot about the volunteer aspect, the volunteer approach, and how we, I guess, the perspective of how we view the volunteer in ministry, or how we've seen it viewed. Just to maybe recall some thoughts that were shared last week, or really the last 2 weeks. Going back to a comment Jay said, many times volunteer, and I love this one, many times the volunteer does not feel the pinch of failure. And so that's kind of why they're comfortable with the volunteer approach.
Right.
In general, volunteers, they're not a lot of expectations connected with the general perspective of a volunteer or someone volunteering in ministry. Our guest last week, he talked a lot about his perspective on, no, there should be expectation. Just because you are, let's say, volunteering in the ministry should not mean that, you just kind of, operate in convenience or operate in a kind of have it your way approach, or kind of, as much as you can do. Now, he also he brought up a word that I thought was really interesting that kind of looks at the flip side. He brought up a word, boundaries. On the flip side, particularly when I say the flip side, where now the expectations are a little distorted. And they're distorted to the point where, a boundary is crossed in terms of, okay, yeah, there is an expectation, but okay, there's that expectation should not morph into something that is unhealthy.
Yeah.
Right. So if I can hit this really quickly, then I'm coming to you for your thoughts, Jay. Going back to this first sentence. If everyone can't be an instructor of a task, then anyone can't just volunteer. All right. I 1000% agree with the sentiment here. It's putting accountability on both sides, not just on the leader or the instructor side. A lot of times, I believe in ministry settings, there is a whole lot of onus, a whole lot of expectation, and a whole lot of accountability put on the leader side, or as this sentence says, instructor side, and almost no onus, almost no accountability, almost no expectation put on the side of the volunteer, of the follower, of the layperson of that ministry.
Yeah.
That don't work.
Yeah.
That just don't work at all.
Yeah. We can see why. Yeah.
Yeah.
History shows us. Yeah. That's true.
That can't work at all.
Mhm.
In the same token that we can't have a tribe full of chiefs and no Indians.
Right.
We also, or let me say that in reverse. In the same token, we can't have a tribe of chiefs and no Indians.
Mhm.
So, in essence, I believe this comment it illustrates the complete or whole perspective
Mhm.
of how ministry ought to operate. Your thoughts, Jay?
Yeah. So I definitely, like you said, 1,000% agree with Mrs. Brister, and this is an amazing way she put this. If I could just break down real quickly, usually when we think of a volunteer, just that alone indicates that whoever you are helping, whatever the task is, there's nothing in it for you.
Yeah.
When somebody asks you to volunteer, or you are volunteering yourself for something, if I am volunteering to help you with your business, more likely that means that I understand from the gate that because the word volunteer, am not looking for anything in return.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I may not even be looking to learn because I'm just an extra set of hands. The same way if you were helping Pels with his business, you may understand a little bit about cameras, but if you're helping him bring bags in or doing whatever you do, holding this or holding that, you're not necessarily trying to get in the business. You're just pretty much an extra set of hands. So when you look at it from that point of view, as we go into our churches and you have these volunteers that are greeters, but they're mean as hell. So understanding, we'll just get used to them, because usually volunteer means you don't get paid. There's nothing in it for you. So what can we do? We're going to try and use them because they're free. But we all know nothing is free. There's going to be a price somewhere. There's going to be a cost. So what has to happen is now you look at volunteers a little differently. Like, okay, well, now you talking about the onus has to be on both. Yeah. So now it's looked at as the leader has to have accountability for who volunteers, even if they ask.
Oh, yes.
Some people have to be turned down to volunteer to sing. The Bible says, I said it once again, the Bible says nothing about your desire to sing. Everybody's not supposed to be up there. It says nothing about your desire to play. It talks about those who are skilled. So if you are skilled in what you do, that means there is some volunteering to work on your craft privately. Or whatever you plan to do inside the church. And all things do in decency and in order. Order means there has to be some structure to what you are trying to do. Just because you're volunteering does not mean you just mess up. And it's okay because you don't feel that pinch. So if you don't feel that pinch, if you don't feel why it's important for you to learn what to do and what you're asked to do while you're volunteering, you'll just be haphazard on anything. Anything goes for you.
Yeah.
Because it's the onus is not on you. You don't have to deal with the upset.
Yeah.
If I press a button that's not supposed to be, they're gonna look at you, not me.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to deal with the upset of everything that's going on, because I am just a volunteer. And a volunteer without purpose is just an extra set of hands.
And this is what I hear, at least with points that both of us are making. Matter of fact, before I go there, I want to read this definition that I read last week. I looked up, I was looking up definitions for volunteerism. And one of the definitions I found says volunteerism is the practice of providing time and skills for the benefit of other people and causes rather than for financial benefit. And the reason I like that definition is because that was the only definition that I saw, that was the first one that I saw of many that mentioned skills.
Yes.
And again, I believe the general perspective, or what we generally see with the volunteer in our ministries, is we're just seeing them provide time.
Yes.
And we've kind of been okay with that. And so now I'm talking to us as leaders, and I heard you talk to us as leaders in terms of letting anyone just volunteer, being okay with anyone just volunteering. Here's where it gets uncomfortable, because why would we be okay with just anyone? We okay with just anyone because there's a need. Exactly.
Exactly. Now remember, we go by the whosoever will. That's a staple in most of our churches. It's been that way. The whosoever will, let him come.
So I'm going to go a little bit closer to the music pit here with this conversation. I'm going to go a little bit closer to the music pit on this conversation and get a little more uncomfortable, particularly from a seat of or a position of having to had hired musicians, right? I learned a long time ago the mistake of hiring the best person available versus the right person for the job.
Hey, right there.
And I understand hire and volunteer, that, a lot of people is going to hear that as opposites, but there's a principle here that I think is applicable across both of those platforms. I learned that it's more times than not, particularly in the music pit, it's a mistake to hire the best person available rather than the right person for the job. Okay, so Darian, what? That ain't the same person? The best person for the job ain't the same as the best person available? No, it's not.
No.
We're going to come to that. I just want to make this last point.
Putting a star next to it.
Thanks, man. The best person available, that has to do with how we think about time. Because, watch this. The right person for the job is not always available at the time you need to hire or at the time you need to appoint.
Right. Exactly.
Let me say it again. The best person for the position is not always available at the time you are looking to appoint.
For that very reason.
So most times what we do is, because the best person's not available, we gotta because the right person for the job is not available, we gotta appoint the best left. That's really what it is.
Wow.
We gotta put the best left.
Yeah.
Now, again, remember I said I'm speaking more in the music pit now because that point, I would not say that's 100% applicable to every ministry.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to illustrate the importance of, Rakeem said it, he used the word vetting.
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't put enough on that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't put enough importance on properly identifying the right people for roles.
Yeah, agreed.
Paid or volunteer.
Agreed.
That's why I said I'm talking, and I when I started down this road, I said I'm talking to leaders.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we put enough on that. I think we let time crunches.
Yeah.
We let them prevail a little bit more often than we should.
Yes.
And again, that goes back to a big point that you made, Jay, about it. There should not just be anybody.
Well, you got to remember also, more times than not, when we are in that position to hire what's the best person that is left and that's available, more times than not, it's not our money we're spending. So you either have to fly or fight or flight type thing.
Yeah.
And who's ever here is what's going to get part of the job done.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it may not be what we need or what we even want or what's going to make it sound good.
Mm-hmm.
If you can just keep a beat,
we'll
work with you. And we've learned to be that way.
And let me make this point, particularly with my analogy on the right person versus best available. I do not want someone to understand that as the most skilled person.
Right.
Because the most skilled person is not always the right person.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I want to make sure that does not get kind of blurred and intertwined. Now, the best available, the right person for the job, that's got a whole lot more ingredients than just skill.
Yeah.
The skill is very important, but there are other ingredients.
Yeah.
Because watch this. The most skilled person could also be a person that's not looking to grow, that their mindset has already hit its ceiling.
Yeah, plateaued.
So in that instance, someone with a growth mindset, but maybe a little less skill, they're probably the right person for the job. So I don't want those two to get crossed up when I say the right person versus the best available, that the right person is always the most skilled. No. And we're gonna hit that a little later in this series. Let's go back to that comment that you started. That's a great question.
Boom. Nick Hill.
Yeah. Is the word skill subjective to each ministry's standard, or should there be a standard amongst the community of people? It's going to have some nuance because your different ministries have different expectations. For instance, okay, the demand of your music ministry is probably different from the demand of your, let's say, evangelism team.
Yeah.
The demand is a little different. So where we talk about that pinch of failure,
Oh, yes.
we got to just understand the nuances. And then that goes back to it was in the end of our conversation last week. End of our conversation last week was making sure we are identifying or properly measuring what makes our ministries effective.
Yeah.
Because that's how in essence you set expectation and the standard. Is you have to be able to properly measure how your ministry, whatever your ministry is, can be effective. Rakeem's comment: anyone that is helping to build the kingdom in any way, whether they're a musician, singer, sound man, janitor, needs to be vetted. Totally agreed. Yeah. Totally agree. And I'm glad that came up. I'm glad you brought that up, Rock, because let's go here. Let's go here. It's a bit of a broad conversation, but let's go here. I think a lot of times the vetting, and Pelzer, I'd love, if you got any thoughts here, I would love to hear what you think here. I think a lot of times the vetting gets mislabeled as clicks.
Say that one more time.
I think a lot of times the vetting gets mislabeled as clicks. So now people are saying, "Oh yeah, you know, they high yellow. They got their nose up. They don't, you know, they don't, you know, you gotta be a superstar to get on that ministry. You know, you gotta be American Idol to join the praise team."
I'm telling you.
See that mislabeling? And we know that's rooted in many things, one of them being jealousy.
Yeah, of course.
One of them being jealousy because we wanted to be somewhere we don't fit.
Right. Square peg in a round
because
hole.
We wanted to be somewhere we didn't fit. And we were told we don't fit. We didn't want to receive that as constructive and genuine. Let me say that again. We told ourselves we wanted to fit somewhere, and we didn't fit. And when we were told that we didn't fit there, we didn't want to receive that as genuine and constructive. So we talk bad about that area that we didn't fit.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Bells, any thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is I would tend to say this. There's a difference between the church that is strategizing to survive and the church that started from people with a strategy to succeed.
Can you say that again, bro?
So there's the church that they're forced in a sense, or they have to strategize to survive. And then there's the church that people are going to, that they started with a strategy to succeed. So most of your strategizing to survive churches are your family churches. They evolve out of to preach. And the cousins, the sisters, the brothers, everybody wrap themselves around it. So it's whoever in the family played an instrument, whoever in the family sang, whoever was willing to open the doors, they became a deacon. Without vetting them. You a deacon because you know how to open the door and close it, and you going past the pastor, check on the boiler. So you are a deacon, right? And then it's learn a little Bible and you're a deacon. Okay. That worked for certain decades. And then time evolved, time changed, right? People started digging more in. I believe we started from a good place of,